Good evening, Chicago. How are you today? Welcome to our show. I have a very special guest here with us today. My name is Reverend Brown, and we have our special guest, Mr. William Calloway. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Want to speak to the Chicago audience and say hello to him, Brother
Hi,
Calloway?
Chicago.
I am so excited today that we have Mr. William Calloway in the studio with us tonight. This is a very important young man, very strong young man, very strong community activist in the city of Chicago, although he travels all over this country and helps out in a very important way to bring justice to those that have been done wrong. And we want to talk today, our topic today will be Laquan McDonald, and you all came up with something called the Laquan Day. So we want to touch bases on that. But before we get with that, I want to let our audience know that this is a live call-in hotline show. You can call in with questions, comments, or concerns that you would like to elaborate on with the subject that we're talking about tonight, or you may want to just talk to Brother Calloway and ask him a few questions about what's been going on here in the city of Chicago concerning the young man Laquan McDonald. So, Mr. Calloway, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and Christianaires, your non-for-profit organization?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that and tell us about yourself.
I appreciate that. So I'm William Calloway, a 27-year-old community activist from the South Side of Chicago. I am the executive director of a non-for-profit called Christianaire, which is geared towards community development, violence prevention, and sort of gang intervention as well. Also, of course, social justice. I think we've gained a lot of notoriety from my involvement from, of course, the release of the Laquan McDonald video. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. Honored to be here today with you.
Okay. You know, when I met you, I was just pleased to just be able to get to know you so down to earth, so humble, so nice, and then one thing I like about you, love God, and I thought that was just an awesome thing, that you're a strong young man that believes in community unity.
Right.
And making sure we get justice for all, not just for one or two people, but for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I just kind of had a couple questions that I wanted you to talk to us about. Just give the people that may not know who Laquan McDonald, was. Can you just tell us a little bit about Laquan McDonald and what happened to him and, kind of when this happened?
Yeah, so Laquan McDonald was a 17-year-old African-American youth from the South Side of Chicago. He was also a ward of the state at the time of his passing. Laquan McDonald was a victim of gun violence and a victim of police excessive force by Officer Jason Van Dyke on October 20 of 2014. Mr. McDonald was seen, as we all saw, really, the world saw, was walking in the opposite direction on the intersection of 40th and Pulaski with a 3-inch blade in his hand. Not really posing a threat to anybody. The biggest threat he probably was posing was on himself. But as we saw Mr. McDonald walk across the street in the opposite direction of law enforcement, this officer got out of his car, approached Mr. McDonald, and began to proceed to fire 16 shots, all striking Mr. McDonald. The first 2 shots took Laquan down, and the remaining 14 shots hit him while he struck Mr. McDonald while he was on the ground. And yeah, it was dash cam footage that captured the whole incident. We had to go to court to fight for the release. I heard about the tape through the grapevine, and I notified a journalist friend of mine by the name of Brandon Smith.
Okay.
And we filed the Freedom of Information Act to request the video. And once we did that, we ended up going to court around this time last year, and the judge ruled in our favor, and the rest is history.
Wow. That situation was a tough situation for the city of Chicago. I think that was one of the main things that kind of set the standard of saying, you know what, this is just way too much. We're not taking any more.
Absolutely.
You know, I think, you know, the young man lost his life, you know, through police brutality. And I just kind of want to talk to you about how has police accountability, the status of that, in your opinion, what's been going on with police accountability for Laquan McDonald?
Sure. So we've seen some systemic changes overall in general when it comes to police accountability here in the city of Chicago. When it comes to Laquan McDonald, the officer who did fatally shoot Mr. McDonald was charged with first-degree murder and is currently awaiting trial. Hopefully he gets this day in trial very, very soon so we can get some justice and begin to heal. Also, there were several officers on the scene that falsified police narratives about what actually happened that night. And since then, Superintendent Johnson has went forward to fire those officers or recommend termination of those officers, and they're waiting for the day in front of the police board for their hearings to face termination.
Wow. So I know that, you know, it's haven't been a lot of police accountability here in Chicago.
Right.
And it's been a lot of marches and a lot of protests and rallies and things of that nature to try to put, you know, the foot to the pedal for some justice for what has happened to him. You know, it's a sad situation. We hoping that, you know, the police here in Chicago would do better, but we just really haven't seen no true change. At least I haven't seen any. I mean, true change and accountability, you know, so.
Yeah, so I think we all have to ask ourselves, what does change look like? And once we identify what change look like, then we can have the conversation on what's the strategy to obtain the change that we're looking for. For me, it was to definitely to demand transparency and to shake up the status quo. And the status quo has been shooken up, and transparency is one of the top priority of city government now since the Laquan McDonald crisis. But yes, we still have a lot to go, because even yet and still, the police, as we saw with Paul O'Neill, are still shooting people unarmed and, you know, in the back, you know.
Yeah.
So.
But I do know that a lot of people have done a lot of work to try to get things done, and I applaud you, because you are one of the young men that's worked extremely hard too.
Thank you.
And I see your focus. What I like about you, your focus. Not that you don't work with a lot of different families, because I've saw you with my own eyes, including my own family, because of course me and my family is a victim of police brutality. But I've seen you work with different families throughout my time of knowing you, to, you know, try to work towards getting justice. But I like your focus in trying to help with the Laquan McDonald. And tell me a little bit about, I've heard you're getting ready to do what they call a Laquan Day. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So October 20th, Thursday.
This Thursday, okay.
Thursday, in 2 days, will actually mark the 2-year anniversary of Laquan McDonald's passing. And, you know, I was in the house last month, and I was meditating and just praying, like, what could we do to commemorate this young man, right? And I felt like that his for me, in my personal opinion, the whole conversation around Laquan sort of simmered down. So, you know, I had this thought that, hey, we should do something on his anniversary of his death. Do it, of course, at the police headquarters, where at the department, of course, we're holding accountable, and just invite a lot of people, invite the city out, invite the community out, and let them know that we haven't went anywhere. We still demanding justice, not only for him, but people like yourself, people like Ronald Johnson, people like Dakota Bright, people like Darius Pinex, and so many more. Rekia Boy, who we haven't received justice yet. So it's going to be a great event. We want you, definitely the whole city, to pop out, turn out, just have a great time and demand justice and accountability.
Okay, I do see you all out there calling in. Callers, we're going to go ahead and take a call. But before we take a call, I do want to elaborate a little bit more about the Laquan Day coming this Thursday, October the 20th at 6
p.m.
6 p.m. at 3510 South Michigan at the headquarters of the police headquarters, the police station headquarters. So all that can, make sure you be there this Thursday at 6 p.m. It's looking like it's going to be almost 1,000 plus people out there. I don't know
Yeah, we looking
how they're
at
gonna handle all of that, but okay.
it's a big
I can
turnout.
tell one thing: you all come strong when you come with them protests and rallies. But at least we can come together and try to, just hold hands and be there with one another, dealing with the hurt and the pain that the family as well as the city has went through the death of Laquan McDonald. We're going to go ahead and take the call. Go ahead, caller. Are you there?
Do you think anything has changed since Laquan was murdered?
Do we think anything has changed since Laquan? A lot has changed. A lot has happened. You want to address the comment of the caller?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've seen more transparency again by the city of Chicago to release more information that the community is requesting upon demand. Not giving us a lot of pushback. I see that a lot of law enforcement are starting to think before they pull the trigger more. We've seen that, not saying that they are effective, but we've seen that the implementation of more body cameras, more tasers, and also recently, last Friday or 2 Fridays ago, Superintendent Eddie Johnson has changed this is historic that he changed the use of force policy for the Chicago Police Department. So no longer can the Chicago Police Department just shoot individuals or shoot perpetrators or suspects when they're running away. It's a different protocol, and if they're found out of policy for shooting them, they can be ultimately terminated. So yeah, we've seen a few changes,
I think it's going to take time. It's going to take time, and it's going to take persistence. And I say you are very persistent. So I like that. We have to stay persistent in order to get things done. And that you got that. You're very focused, young man. We have another caller. Go ahead, caller. Are you there? Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi. How are you? Welcome to the show. What's your question?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm glad that you got this brother on the show. So glad of the work that you do, my brother. But what I want to know is, when does the protesting stop? When does the rallying stop? And when do we do something more so that we can get what we need in our communities? Because we've been failed by so many of these legislators, so many of these people holding office that we put in office. So when is it going to stop for us rallying and protesting and really getting stuff done other than that, like legislation and things of that nature?
All right, absolutely. That's a good question, caller. I think that's a great segue for what we're doing on October 20th along with Laquan Day. We're introducing some new legislation called the Laquan Law.
Yeah, I remember that was going to be my next question to you. But I guess this young man pushed us to go ahead and talk about the Laquan Law. Can you tell the people how that came to you to even begin to put out there and what it's about, and just as much as you can about it, let us know.
Right. So the Laquan Law was really just brought to me by God, and I just felt that we need to have some legislation to commemorate Mr. McDonald, to make sure what happened to him moving forward would never happen again. And if it does, we can hold the people accountable who was responsible for any type of cover-ups, any type of corruptions, et cetera, et cetera. So the Laquan legislation will be the first of its kind in the state of Illinois. And it's basically where we are empowered by the voters are empowered to recall the Cook County State's Attorney, recall the mayor office, recall city council aldermen, if we feel that they're not doing an adequate job, like we're in the case of Laquan McDonald covering up his death. So therefore, we would be empowered to not wait 4 years until they're out of office to vote them out of office. We can petition and have a recall election and remove them out of office before their 4-year term expires. And I think it's monumental. Legislation is paramount. We have never seen anything like this, not only in Chicago, but again in the state of Illinois. There's no recall legislations on the book, and once it's enacted, it definitely would change the political landscape of the city.
I think more of the city workers, as far as the aldermen and ones that's been voted in, would do their job a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Oh wow! So
Absolutely.
I applaud you, young man, for listening to the voice of God to tell you to do this, and the change gonna come. I could just say that. We do have another caller. Caller, are you there? You all go ahead and put the caller through, please.
Hello, hi. I wanted to get your guest thoughts on an incident Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson spoke about a couple of weeks ago, where he said a female officer was attacked by someone and she was injured and, you know, decided not to shoot the person because of all the scrutiny that the police department has been under recently?
Yeah, my thoughts on that. I'm not as briefed with that situation. I heard about it shortly through through clips on the media, but I'm not as brief. Of course, I mean, the sanctity of life should be the top priority of all law enforcement. We should not have a shoot first mentality when it comes to law enforcement. Period. I hate the fact that that did happen to that female officer. My question is why was this female officer in a position anyway to go hand to hand combat with this gentleman, or I can't say gentleman, but with this man who was high PCP? Where was her partner and where was her backup in patrol to pull or aid and assist her to make sure that this situation never happened? I commend her for not shooting the guy, but I also, in the same token, know that there's other forms to de-escalate a situation than just grabbing your firearm and discharging it at a suspect. And I think that in the Chicago Police Department, they have to maintain a certain status quo when it comes to shooting. But, you know, the activist community and advocates against police violence have made sure that that status quo will be eliminated in the future. But it's definitely unfortunate. My heart goes out to that law enforcement officer. I commend her for not shooting the guy. But again, there should be other ways that we should de-escalate situations besides shooting, and tasers and other forms and methods and means, and even backup. There was even no backup there for her to even help her. So, yeah.
Well, I hadn't even heard about the situation, but I'm gonna go ahead and take another caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, caller.
I heard you talking about Laquan Day. I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to find out where it's going to be at again because I would like to attend.
Okay, so that's for Thursday. The Laquan McDonald Day will be at this Thursday, October the 20th, right?
Yes, ma'am.
At 6 p.m. and that will be at 3510 South Michigan at
Yes.
the police headquarters.
Absolutely.
This day, just telling people a little bit about this day, what we'll be doing, and I expect it, to
We gonna go out there and make some noise for Laquan. We gonna make sure that people his memory is still, let people know that we're still fighting for justice. Jason Van Dyke has not been convicted for the first degree murder of Laquan McDonald. We want to make sure that the special prosecutor, that's handling his case, that we want him to know that the pressure is on him from community. We want him to do an adequate job of convicting Van Dyke, and we want the status quo and the rest of the corrupted Chicago police officers to know that their day is coming as well. And we're coming to get justice for everybody, and not just for Laquan McDonald, but for Reverend Brown, Dakota Bright, Darius Pinex, and all the other names that we are here championing justice for. Also, in addition to that, we want to continue Laquan legacy with this legislation of Laquan law. And we're going to put this legislation out, and we're going to make it be known through the movement, and this is what we want. And that's where we have to make sure that we put pressure back on city government and the city politics, and let people know that Rahm Emanuel does not have our best interests at heart in the black community. Also, with the Cook County State's Attorney and majority of the City Council aldermen. And this legislation will put them in the hot seat where they belong for the irresponsibility of handling the Laquan McDonald video.
Wow. And so the Laquan McDonald law, when do you expect that to come into play?
Well, lawmakers go back, well, it will be introduced and filed very soon. I would like to say that it should be introduced on the House floor November 15th when lawmakers go back to session for veto session. So we need everybody in the Chicagoland area, not in the Chicagoland area, but in the state period, to contact your state legislator and let them know that you're demanding that this Laquan law, that they sponsor this Laquan law and they vote for this Laquan law, and make sure that it is enacted and effective immediately.
So there's nothing in place now to remove an alderman or the mayor or anything for if there needs to be recalled from their position. The voters have no power as of now.
Absolutely not. There's no procedure to recall any elected official in the state of Illinois. There's recall legislation for at least 29 to 30 states across the country. But Illinois, unfortunately, is one of the states that does not have recall legislation. And I think that speaks on the level of corruption from city government down to statewide government. And that we've seen from Governor Ryan to to some of the aldermen from the city, and just bringing on federal charges. But when we as constituents know that there's some of these elected officials are practitioners of corruption, but we have no way of fighting the machine. This will help us fight the machine by giving us power, and also it will increase the confidence of the democracy again, and help people believe in the voting process.
Yeah, well, I think that, like I said before, you're a focused young man. I'm glad that you decided to come on to the show tonight. And I look forward. I will be there on October 20th, this Thursday at 6 p.m. at 3510 South Michigan. That is where we will be celebrating Laquan McDonald on October the 20th, this Thursday at 6 p.m. right outside of the police headquarters at 3510 South Michigan. Can you tell the people how they can get in touch with you, Mr. William Calloway?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at Christianaire. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm William Calloway on Facebook. And then you could just reach out to me. Come out and join us on October 20th, this Thursday at 6 p.m. in front of 35th and Michigan at the police headquarters. It's going to be a great event. I look forward to seeing everybody coming out, and make sure you come passionate, but come peaceful, and we are going to have a great time in commemorating so many people, spreading the love of God, and holding our law enforcement, our elected official, and our community accountable.
I thank you so much. Also, for people that might want to give you some type of support and things of that nature, they can also just kind of reach out to you via Twitter and Facebook. Any type of way they wanted to contact you to help you out and support. That would be another way for them to call you through your...
to contact, yeah, absolutely. Please feel free to reach and contact me. I'm kind of filtering my inbox lately, so if I don't get back to you...
Busy man, huh?
It's not...
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. And it's nothing wrong with that. That's good. Yeah. That means you're getting things done, so that's a good thing.
And I'm trying. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely trying.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Just want to encourage you to keep on going, and everybody out there, be sure that you continue to support this young man. We are so proud of you, and
thank you. Thank you.
We're praying for you every day, and all of the community activists and the people out here in Chicago that's fighting for justice for all. I just encourage you to get with William Calloway and continue to help him move the movement.
Yes.
It's not a struggle for him. It's a movement.
It's a movement.
We are moving in the right direction to get things done.
Absolutely.
It's not just talk about it, be about it. So I applaud you, young man, in that direction, and continue to keep doing your good work. Chicago, I look forward to seeing you guys on next week. We will see you on next week again, same channel, same time, Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Everybody have an awesome evening, and I'll see you on next week. Thank you so much, Mr. Calloway.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
Reverend.
for coming out.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye,
No
Chicago.
problem. All right, Chicago, be peaceful. Have a blessed evening.